Yo, welcome to the Ghost here. Today I'm bringing you guys a comparison video between the Fin and XM4. And again, we're continuing the theme of just weapons that don't really get talked about, I guess, or underrated. And this time around we have the Fin, which is a weapon that has never really been talked about or really given a chance. Ever since that it's been out, it's just never really been there at all. But let me tell you guys that this Fin is actually really pretty good, especially with the adverse barrel. Actually, I'm just gonna say the Fin with the adverse barrel is pretty good. So I'm not really entirely sure how the base Fin comes out to be, because I didn't really use it. I used the adverse barrel Fin, and that gun was it was hidden. But there's a few things that we got to talk about with this weapon. But you know what I'm saying, hopefully this video kind of opens your eyes a little bit to show you how good the Fin is with the adverse barrel. But before we do get into that, I want to say, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 2,000, like 160 away. Any sub is greatly appreciated. Also, if you guys do me a favor, follow my Twitch channel at __ I'd greatly appreciate it. And also, a little side note, I'm filming this like right after my work shift. It is midnight, so you know, haha, we're still on the grind. But yeah, man, with that being said, let's do this person. And here we have the Fin with the adverse barrel, or I guess you should say the XRK long shot adverse barrel recoil pattern. As you guys can see, it's actually surprisingly pretty straight. However, when you use this gun, that recoil pattern gets thrown out the window, because this gun doesn't necessarily shoot straight. It's definitely to date, to me personally, one of the hardest weapons to control 100%. And if you have perfect recoil with this thing, you're either a god, or you're doing a thing. You know, you are using a strike pack or a Cronus, because this gun, to be able to shoot straight with this gun is not that easy, man. And the bullets on this, bro, I use 75 rounds on this. It disappears. 75 is by far not enough with that barrel. Like, it just shoots so fast. And when I saw the fire rate, the stats for the fire rate on this gun, like, this gun actually has a slower fire rate than the Mag 10, which doesn't even make sense. Again, I just don't understand how these stats make sense, because even with the adverse barrel, it still has a less of a fire rate than the Mag, and yet it runs out of ammo insanely fast, way faster than the Mag does. But you know, that's a little besides the point. But this gun, bro, I think truthfully the adverse barrel makes this weapon. I think a base Fin isn't necessarily anything too spectacular. I'm not gonna say it's bad, because the stats, the actual stats on this weapon, damage wise and just fire rate, isn't just like spectacular. It's not able to necessarily outclass any AR, but with this adverse barrel, man, things definitely change, because you melt people like it's nothing. And this gun, man, is very good when you put on this barrel. It's just simply because you are literally outputting so much like bullets. It's insane. Like, no other AR can really compete with the fire rate of this gun. Maybe like, man, XM4 XM4 has a big disadvantage against this Fin with the adverse barrel. Like, yeah, truthfully, there's like no AR that I could think of that is capable of outgunning it just with fire rate. Yes, the XM4 will have more damage on it, but I mean, dude, you see how much bullets I'm putting out with this Fin? Like, bro, like, it's just not fair. I'm literally shooting a minigun. This thing is a minigun, and if you actually you can actually make this gun a minigun when you put on like the one attachment that makes it like a straight up minigun. But obviously this gun's gonna have a lot of downsides to it. Like, for example, with the fast fire rate, we have an increased recoil, and it's again not the easiest to control. Also, we have 75 rounds, which is not enough bullets. And I know you guys are gonna say, why don't you just put an extended mag? Well, the thing is, you can't really just put an extended mag on this gun, because you would have to give up an attachment that is helping this weapon. Like, you can't get rid of the 3x scope. Maybe you can actually. You can't really get rid of the attack ratio or commander foregrip. Like, you need those to be able to somewhat control the crazy amount of recoil that the adverse barrel puts on it. And no, you can't take away the barrel. Like, if you want this gun to be as good as I'm making it out to be, you need that adverse barrel. You cannot run it as a base, because obviously the base Fin doesn't have that fire rate. Like, it's not gonna know people like that, because it's just not shooting as fast. So, you know, there's obviously a lot of risk to come in with this weapon, but if you're able to be able to get a hang of it, you're gonna be able to put in work. Trust me on that. But anyways, man, with that being said, let's get into the stats in XM4. And here we have the recoil pattern for the XM4, and honestly, this kind of has a little bit more recoil, or like based off the recoil pattern, base recoil pattern, than the Fin. But man, obviously in game it's just not the same. The XM4 definitely has a little bit maybe not less recoil, it's just easier to control. Maybe it's because of the fire rate, because the fire rate difference is pretty significant in this, especially with the average barrel. So anyways, though, speaking of fire rates and all that, let's get into the statistics. So for the base fin fire rate, we have a 630 RPM, but when you put on the attachment, the XR4 long shot adverse barrel, it goes from a 630 RPM to a 995.4 RPM. And again, it's still surprising to me that that's it. Like, I feel like it should be way higher than that, and at least faster than the Mac 10. For how fast it feels like it shoots, and for how fast it runs out of bullets, like, it definitely feels a lot faster than 995. Now, don't get me wrong, 995 is still pretty fast, but it definitely feels a lot faster. And then when you go over to the XM4, the fire rate for that is 721 RPM. So obviously, if it was a base fin, I think the XM4 would definitely be a lot better than it. But we're talking about a gun that's literally shooting like God knows how much bullets a second. Like the thing literally runs out of bullets in 2 seconds. So that's the biggest like argument point in this whole comparison. It's just the fact that the fin after zero just makes it very viable because it just shoots really fast. Now, I won't lie to you, I think that the fin definitely has its drawbacks in certain game modes. Like, for example, if you're playing trios or quads, I don't think it's necessarily the greatest weapon to be using, but if you're playing solos or duos, I think the fin's a perfect weapon. Definitely has the capabilities of killing 1 or 2 people with 75 rounds, whereas 3 and 4, you're gonna have to, like it's possible with 3 to 4, but you have to literally not miss a single bullet. You can't afford to miss shots. Obviously, none of us are perfect. We're gonna miss shots. So, if in the trio and quad setting, like, you have to be very careful how you use it. It's not impossible to use it. It's just a little bit difficult because you have to really like be methodical with how you use it. Anyway, moving over to the stats for the fin. The damage for 0 to 30 meters, we have 36 damage to the head, neck, and chest, and then 28 to the stomach and extremities. So again, obviously it's a little weak, especially for LMG, but granted that it has a really fast fire rate, I think this is a really good balance. So it's not too overpowered. And then moving over to the XM4 is obviously going to be quite a bit of advantage for the XM4 in damage. We have 45 damage, or for 0 to 22 meters, we have 45 damage to the head and neck, and then 30 to the chest, stomach, and so obviously there, the XM4 definitely has an advantage at just damage in general, like every aspect, except for the chest, where the fin beats it by 6, which is like 2 or 3 bullets. And the chest, I would argue, is definitely one of the more popular areas people get shot at. So the fin does have an advantage in the right place. However, in other like crucial areas, it just gets completely outgunned. So then moving over to the longer ranges, for 30 meters and above for the fin, we have 28 damage to the head, neck, chest, and 22 to the stomach and extremities. So the damage chopper, is definitely there, definitely noticeable. And then for the XM4, for 22 meters and above, 40 to the head, neck, 40 to the head and neck, and then 27 to the chest, stomach, and extremities. And again, the XM4 has the advantage in damage over range, except for the chest area. But this time around, it's at a disadvantage by 1 damage profile, which isn't that big of a difference. But again, man, it's all about that fire rate. And the fin has the fire rate that could literally beat, I think, most weapons in the game, or at least ARs and LMGs at any, not any range, but at like close to medium to a little bit of far range. I think the fin head on, if you're able to hit all your shots, theoretically should beat every AR in the game, or LMG. Because I don't even think there's an AR that comes close to the 800 RPM, let alone 900 RPM mark, except for maybe the M13. And the M13 is a weapon that doesn't really give you. Actually, let me backtrack. I think the RAM or M13 might be the only ARs that could come close to the fire rate of this fin with the adverse barrel. But other than that, not many others even break like 750. So to be honest, again, like, that should solidify my point that this fin, like, especially if you're a solo player, bro, I think this fin cleanse is literally it for you. I don't see this gun being beaten unless a weapon is just like straight up just monstrous in damage, which, like an EM2, for example. EM2 has a lot of damage. I think that weapon, if you're able to fully control it, could probably beat it off damage alone. But like an XM4 that isn't necessarily like crazy, like, it has good damage, but it isn't like overwhelmingly just destroying this in damage. It's not like doubling in every statistical category, but it definitely does have an advantage. But the fin's just fire, it just allows it to not get completely overwhelmed by anything. And in fact, it allows for it to just gun everything. But I'm gonna let you guys experiment with it. I'm gonna let you guys figure it out, because I had my experience with it. I loved it. I felt like it's definitely a weapon that is capable of being in competition. I won't say meta because again, there's a lot of things that kind of make it people not want to use it and just make it not like more convenient than other ones. But it still has, I feel like, a place in just competing with the top ARs at the moment, considering the fact that the top ARs at the moment are kind of like scattered and not necessarily too overpowered. But yeah, man, with that being said, let me know what you guys think about the fin and the barrel, I guess. And then, man, thank you guys for watching. See you guys later, and I'm out. Peace.
7.